Let's talk about Jackie Chan, but not just the global movie star we all know. No, we're going deeper, to explore the artist. An artist whose canvas was his own body, and whose medium was, well, pain, all of it, just to make us laugh and gasp. And to really get who he is, we have to start with a pretty bizarre question. Think about it. Why would one of the wealthiest, most famous entertainers on the planet have a permanent hole in his head, literally plugged with plastic? The answer to that question, it tells you everything about his art, his philosophy, and a lifetime of unbelievable sacrifice. You see, that philosophy wasn't something he learned on a Hollywood movie set. No, it was forged in the fire of a childhood that most of us can barely even imagine. His story starts way back in 1954. He was born to parents so poor, they actually considered selling him to pay the doctor's bill. They nicknamed him Pow Pow, or Cannonball, because he was just this unstoppable ball of energy. At 7 years old, he was sent off to the China Drama Academy. And just 10 years later, at 17, he was already a professional stuntman. But let's be really clear what training academy meant. This wasn't some after-school program. For a decade, Jackie was put through 18 to 19 hours of training every single day. And it wasn't just martial arts. It was the whole package. Acrobatics, acting, singing, the works. And the discipline? If you failed, the punishment was physical. This place wasn't just about building skill. It was a crucible that forged an almost superhuman tolerance for pain. So when he finally graduated and stepped into the Hong Kong film industry, you'd think he was a shoo-in for stardom, right? But he immediately slammed into a wall. A very, very famous wall. The massive shadow of the one and only Bruce Lee. You see, after Bruce Lee's tragic death, every producer in town was desperate to find the next Bruce Lee. They took one look at Jackie's incredible abilities and tried to cram him into that same mold, the serious, intense, invincible fighter. And those movies, they were total flops. Why? Because Jackie Chan was not Bruce Lee. And more importantly, he never, ever wanted to be. I mean, the difference between them is just night and day. Bruce Lee was a screen god. He was intense, perfect, unbeatable. Jackie decided to be the complete opposite. He was the everyman hero, the guy who gets hurt, who makes mistakes, who has to use a chair or a ladder to get out of a jam. He wasn't invincible, he was human. So by totally rejecting that Bruce Lee persona, he was forced to invent something brand new. And with game-changing movies like Drunken Master, he did exactly that. He fused these breathtaking martial arts with slapstick comedy. This wasn't just a new kind of character, it was a whole new genre that would completely change the game. And this new genre was built on one single unbreakable rule, a philosophy that would define his entire career and nearly end his life more than once. It's really as simple and as terrifying as this. For Jackie Chan, the ultimate form of respect for his audience is authenticity. No camera tricks, no stunt doubles, no green screens. If you see it happen on screen, he really, truly did it. Period. To give you a sense of what that level of commitment actually looks like, here's a number for you. 2,900. What in the world could that possibly be? That is how many times he did a single, complicated stunt sequence for the movie Dragon Lord. 2,900 takes. Not because he kept messing it up, but because he was chasing absolute, total perfection for the audience. The dedication is just, it's almost unbelievable. But this philosophy, it came at an incredible cost. His filmography basically reads like a doctor's chart. In Police Story, he slid down a metal pole wrapped in explosive lights, getting second-degree burns and injuring his spine. For Rumble in the Bronx, he broke his ankle, so he just had a cast made that he could paint to look like a sneaker and kept right on filming. And in Armor of God, he fell from a tree, fractured his skull, and yep, that's where that permanent hole in his head comes from. Now, for years, this amazing style was huge in Asia, but his first attempts to break into the US market in the 80s were, well, they were frustrating. The studios just didn't get his vision. But eventually, Hollywood had no choice but to take notice. So after those early failures, where he had zero creative control, he went back to Hong Kong and just focused on making masterpieces. Then, in 1995, Rumble in the Bronx hit the West, and it was a total game changer. Audiences here had never seen anything like it. 3 years later, Rush Hour comes out, and boom, he's one of the biggest stars in the world. He proved that his brand of physical comedy was a universal language. So, after all that, after decades of literally breaking his body for our entertainment, how does the film industry finally, formally, recognize that kind of unique and dangerous contribution? Well, first, just look at the body of work itself. We're talking over 200 films. That is a relentless, incredible work ethic, all while performing at a physical level that is just hard to even comprehend. And then, in 2016, the Academy finally did what so many fans felt was long overdue. They gave him an honorary Oscar. It wasn't for just one role. It was for a lifetime of achievement, a lifetime spent risking absolutely everything for the sake of his art. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We don't watch a Jackie Chan movie to see a character survive a crazy situation. We watch it to see Jackie Chan himself survive it. And you know his famous blooper reels at the end of the credits? They're more than just funny outtakes. They're the receipts. They're the proof of the very real pain and the very real risk that went into every single shot. And that really brings us to a final thought. In today's world, a stunt like falling from a clock tower, that's all done with a green screen and computers. Jackie did it for real, 3 times. And it leaves you with a big question. In our modern age of digital perfection, is that kind of authentic, physical risk a relic of the past? Will we ever see an artist willing to bleed for their art in quite the same way again?